Welcome to CSGuitars, the science of loud. Today I'm in Germany at TGU 19 and I'm tackling your TATAs, the questions that at this stage you're too afraid to ask. In this episode I'm going to show some love to the tiny TATAs, the questions that are so small and quick to answer that they wouldn't fill a video on their own. And to ask your comments, I've enlisted the help of a few of my friends.
Can you swap tube types in amps, put a 6L6 and an EL84 amp?
The answer is no, especially not in the example given. EL84 and 6L6 valves have entirely different sizes of pin base. You physically can't swap between them because they won't fit. But even for valves that do share a pin base, like the EL34 and 6L6, amplifiers are typically only designed to work with one type of valve. An amplifier circuit is designed around the electrical properties of one type of valve, the voltage and current they require to operate correctly. Different types of valve have different internal components which require different electrical properties, so swapping between them is a bad idea. Of course, some amplifiers will allow you to swap between different valve types, but these are special because they'll either have a switch which changes between different components within the amp and requires a total rebias of the valves, which is a work for a qualified technician, or they will have some super duper valve monitoring system that will auto bias the valves for you. So unless it says in the manual that this feature is there, or if you're unsure at all, assume that you can't swap valves.
How does a Floyd Rose work?
Floyd Rose and all floating bridges work on the principle of balancing tension. When your strings are brought to pitch, they have a lot of tension, pulling the bridge towards the tuners. To balance this, a Floyd Rose uses stiff springs in a cavity on the rear of the guitar. By increasing the tension on these springs, or indeed by adding more of them, you balance the string pull on the front with spring pull on the back, causing the bridge to float in a flat position. Dipping the arm decreases the tension of the strings, but increases the tension of the springs. When you let go again, the forces seek to balance themselves out back to the zero position. Floyd Roses go one step further by bolting down the strings at both ends of the guitar, bridge and nut. This double locking system locks down the string length so it cannot change, giving it a greater chance of returning to the correct pitch after you're finished using the whammy bar.
What happened to the CSFlute channel?
It was all just an elaborate April Fool's joke and I had no intention of taking the channel beyond that. But I'm very pleased to see all the enthusiasm for flute science videos. So perhaps once I've taught you everything there is to know about guitars, I can get back to talking about flutes.
Can you explain power ratings on speakers?
The power rating of a speaker is the maximum power that that speaker can handle. So if you have a 25 watt speaker, you can operate it safely with an amplifier that goes up to 25 watts. If you have a single 25 watt speaker and you connect it to a 100 watt amp and turn the volume up, you're very quickly going to burn out the voice coil, which leads to a defunct speaker and it just won't smell very nice. 4x12 cabinets typically contain 4 25 watt speakers and can safely handle an amplifier up to 100 watts. Why is this? Well, because the power of the amplifier is evenly distributed over all the speakers in the cabinet. So 100 watts divided by 4 speakers is 25 watts per speaker. This is why you can't have, say, a 2x12 cabinet that has a 90 watt speaker and a 10 watt speaker. Sure, those both total 100, but if you put a 100 watt amp into a 2x12 like that, each speaker will see 50 watts. So the 90 watt speaker can handle 50 watts just fine, but the 10 watt speaker, oh boy, that's dead.
How does a tone control work?
A tone control consists of a potentiometer and capacitor arranged into what is called a low-pass filter. Essentially, it lets the low frequencies pass through unaffected, but the high frequencies get bled to ground. By changing the setting of the potentiometer, we vary the resistance and alter how much of the high frequencies are removed. Different capacitor values determine the maximum amount of treble that can be bled out of the system, and each different construction and type of capacitor will do this in its own minutely different way. So if you like to ride on your tone control, then you might see more benefit from a high quality tone capacitor than if you just like to set and forget. And also, if you think the tone control itself is completely useless, then I challenge you to play a Fender Stratocaster for a while. You'll soon see how vital the tone and volume controls are for altering your guitar's sound.
What are Fspaced pickups and what does F stand for?
If you look at the two biggest guitar brands, Fender and Gibson, you'll notice something interesting about their string spacing. Fender guitars have a wider string spacing than Gibson if you measure at the bridge. Since the pole piece spacing on pickups is designed around the guitar that they're going to be installed in, if you try to fit a Gibson humbucker into the bridge position of a Fender Stratocaster, for example, you'll find that the pole pieces don't line up with the strings. They are too close together. So Fspaced pickups are designed for Fender style guitars. It's also worth noting that Floyd Rose bridges have the same string spacing as a Fender, so Fspaced starts to make a lot of sense when they're for Fender and Floyd's.
RMS versus PMPO. What does that mean?
RMS means root means square, which is a way of describing a scientifically repeatable average power output that you can expect when operating an amplifier. It's not a true average, as you can see here. Taking an average of a sine wave gives you a power output of 0, which isn't exactly useful. But by squaring the wave, taking the mean and then the root of that, we get the next best thing, the root mean square. This is a scientifically backed way of describing the power output from an amplifier. The amplifier may momentarily give out more or less power than the RMS, but on average, you can expect RMS operation. PMPO is a completely arbitrary number with zero scientific backing and can be best described as marketing watts. Essentially, it's the largest number a manufacturer can put on the box and technically not be lying. How this number is achieved is that random music will be pumped through the device and the power output is monitored over time. Then, the highest peak will be selected as the peak music power output, or PMPO. As you can see, the amplifier may only have peaked at this power for a fraction of a second and may never achieve this power output again under any scenario. It doesn't represent the average operating power of the device in any way. It's simply the highest number achieved in some random test. So if PMPO is as good as a fairy tale made up bullshit number, then why is it rated on so many products? The answer is simply consumer ignorance. If you tested an amplifier and it came out as 20 watts RMS, but peaked somewhere at 100 watts, which number looks more impressive? If you had two boxes, one read 20 watts RMS and the other read 100 watts PMPO, and you didn't know what those things meant, which one would you think is better and louder? In consumer tests, people tend to buy the bigger number, even if that number is utterly meaningless. So next time you're buying an amplifier, check if it's rated in RMS or PMPO. If the latter, don't buy the product. They're basically lying to you. That's all for this Tiny TATAs episode. I hope it's answered a few of your questions. I just want to say thank you to Toman and the brands for putting on this event, and for my friends for helping ask the questions. If you've got any questions of your own that you're too afraid to ask, please do leave them in the comments, and perhaps they'll become the topic of a future Tata video. It's never too late to learn. Keep it loud, guys, and I'll see you next time.
How does a Floyd Rose work? Well, the answer is if you don't sharpen the knife edges on a modern one, not very well.
What happened to the CH Flute channel? I'll tell y'all, he lost his man card.
Hey Colin, I was wondering, why is Rob Chapman so sexy? No, wait, is that the question? That wasn't the question, was it? Okay.
Oh.
I can give you that answer right now.
How does a tone control work? You leave it on 10.
Who the fuck writes this shit?